I've had my PS5 for over a year now, and through that time I've played some great games like Blasphemous, Persona 5 or Stardew Valley. When I look at the PS Store, I realize the incredible amount of games I would love to play, even almost all their titles. Because the thing is, before having the PS5, the only things I played were Nintendo games, mostly Pokemon. I haven't played the old God of War games at the time I write this, nor The Last of Us 1 and 2, nor even sagas like Final Fantasy or Devil May Cry. So I got curious and decided to check how many video games I'd actually like to play. It was way more than I expected in the first place. As of me writing this, there's 247 games in my backlog, and well, some of them are DLCs, so maybe you don't count them as full games, but that's a whole other conversation. The thing here is that if I want to play all those games, not just those games, but the new ones that come out every year, just this 2024, tons of amazing games came out. Games like Dragon's Dogma 2, let's forget about the controversy, it's a great game. The Elden Ring DLC, again, if you don't count DLCs as games, maybe you don't count this one, but humor me. Helldivers 2, Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, Hades 2, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Persona 3 Reload, and Balatro. I don't remember any other indie being nominated to Game of the Year. And many other I don't really want to mention because it would get boring. So between new AAA launches and indie games, whether they're new or maybe I just didn't hear of them before, the backlog will certainly increase. I say this to explain that the point of this channel isn't to finish my backlog. I don't think I'd enjoy the games if I had to rush through them to have any chance of playing all of them. It's just nice to see how many games I believe to be great and I can play for the first time. And it could help me if I'm unsure of what to play. Just go into your backlog and choose something random. I do actually want to play the games there, so it wouldn't be a problem. The first one though, because I was kind of excited to see what kind of videos I would like to make, is GRIS. A pretty short game. I added this one to my backlog because a guy whose name I can't really remember talked about it briefly on a YouTube video, and seemed like a pretty short game it is. Now, I believe that it would be nice to just talk about my opinion of the game. It could be interesting to see how someone who has barely played video games gets more experienced and, I guess, wiser in everything related to playing games. So, as the game to inaugurate this channel, I chose GRIS, an indie game developed by Nomada Studio, a studio from Spain actually, the place I'm from, so there's kind of like a pride here of, hey, a studio from my country made this. I'd recommend it to anyone at the start, because it's a pretty short game, you know? It took me a little longer than 3 hours to beat it, stopping at times to answer some messages. So I believe anyone will enjoy it, regardless of their personal preferences when it comes to games. Because that's what happens with indie games. Well, not indie games, but short games. It's difficult to dislike a game that lasts just long enough to end before your initial excitement about it ends, which is fantastic, since the amount of short games out there means lots of variety. Plus, with the existence of subscriptions, the price stops being a problem. On the other hand, and completely unrelated to GRIS, this does make me appreciate even more longer games like Persona 5. My favorite game to this day, maybe tied with Yakuza 0, but I haven't finished Yakuza 0 yet, so can't really compare them. But anyways, in the 95 hours it took me to complete the game, I don't think I ever felt really bored or like I should just stop playing the game. Something easy to achieve when your game takes 5 hours to beat, but challenging when it's over 90. But anyways, that's a topic I should talk about when I play one of those games. Maybe something like Baldur's Gate 3? So for now, onto the game. In these videos though, I will separate the video into sections when they have a story. One without spoilers, where I talk in general about what the game does, for those who might be watching the video thinking whether or not to start playing the game. And the second one, where I comment the story and any theories I might have. But in the case of GRIS, there is a message I guess, but not really a story. At least not one that I can spoil anyways. Still, I do encourage you to go and try the game by yourself, and then come back to the video to see if we share similar opinions about it. GRIS is a game that talks about the 5 stages of grief: denial, anger, regaining, depression and acceptance. It doesn't tell you anything. There's not a word on the screen between the title and the credits, I think, unless you pause the game, obviously. A decision I'm not sure I'd make. I could of course be wrong, but I assume that the game tells us, well, it would be more accurate to say it shows us, how the main character deals with what it looks like the loss of a loved one, represented by the statues we see throughout the game. I personally think that if we knew who this girl was, her story, her struggles, what this girl we see crumbling meant to her, all the moments they had together, we would be more motivated to get her through the grieving process into acceptance, to see her happy like she was before. The journey through this ruined landscape would have a bigger purpose than just advancing in the game, solving puzzles and doing some platforming. But thinking about it after finishing the game, I think it could actually be a good choice. If you play the game knowing what it's about, the 5 stages of grief, you could maybe see yourself in the main character. You could recall how you dealt with something, with someone you lost, as you'd see her do the same. It might be more intimate that way, if you can focus on your own story, without some text here and there to distract you. I don't know if that's what the developers were going for, but if it is the case, I'm glad they did it like this. But story aside, the art of this game is fabulous. I don't think there's a moment in the game where if you took a screenshot I wouldn't use it as a wallpaper. There's no denying this game looks beautiful, or should I say denial. I'm sorry, I should just stick to giving my opinion. No jokes. And it's not only the art, it's how it tells you a story that missing words don't. You can clearly see when she goes from denial to anger, for example, or from regaining to depression and afterwards to acceptance.